this video, we will talk about conjugate acids. So anytime you see an acid, it just basically means you add an H plus to it. In fact, usually the H is in the front of the chemical compound. Now, conjugate acid just means that you pick up an H plus. So in my lecture, I've made it a point to emphasize that H plus proton is the same thing as H3O plus hydromonium ion. This problem is actually fairly simple in problem 15.6. HS minus, so what do you do to get the conjugate acid? You add an H plus. So the correct answer for part A is H2S. So remember that H plus, the H adds on to the H gives you H2, the plus neutralizes the minus. So the correct answer for part A is H2S. So it's important to recognize that you have to also deal with the charge here. HCO3 minus, by the way, this is called a bicarbonate ion. So add an H plus, what do you get? H2CO3, and then that plus neutralizes the minus. So you have HCO3 minus, that's the conjugate base. Actually, the conjugate acid is going to be, after we add the H plus to it, gives you H2CO3. This is called carbonic acid, by the way, and its conjugate base is bicarbonate HCO3 minus. Carbonate ion, you may remember from your flashcards, and we add an H plus to it, we get this, actually part B, bicarbonate. So add an H plus, HCO3 minus, remember plus 1 minus 2 gives you a minus. H2PO4 minus, add an H plus, we get H3PO4, remember that plus neutralizes the minus. H3PO4 is known as phosphoric acid. Here we add an H plus. Notice here that phosphoric acid is triproduct. It can actually liberate not one, not two, but 3 protons. So part E, we add an H plus. Here we get H2PO4 minus. So skipping around and going to part E, we have H, add an H plus here. It's going to be H2PO4 minus. Phosphate. We add an H plus, and then we get basically part E, right? HPO4 minus 2. So minus 3 plus from the plus 1 gives you minus 2. So this would be the conjugate base. This would be its corresponding acid. Adding an H plus here gives you sulfuric acid, one of the 6 strong acids that we asked you to memorize. So sulfuric acid is H2SO4. Removing an H plus gives it the conjugate base. The conjugate base is what we see here. Sulfate ion is adding an H plus. We get basically G, right? HSO4 minus. And then this is the sulfite ion. So notice sulfuric acid is diproduct, diprotic. Diprotic sulfuric acid can deliver 2 protons essentially. Sulfite, if you remember our flashcards way back in Gen Chem 1, we add a H plus to that, we get HSO3 minus. So that's going to be our final slot here, HSO3 minus. Okay. So conjugate acid, we add an H plus, and don't forget to deal with the charge. If it's asking for the conjugate base, we remove the H plus. Don't forget to make sure you have the necessary overall charge on the molecule.